entertainmentbuddha.com.
Hey now everyone, it is Matt and Nick, and we are back with a new episode. Yes, we took a week off. Sorry. Get over it. We're humans just like the rest of you. Although we do have force abilities, so I guess we should do it every week. But anyways, we're here. We're ready to talk Star Wars. We got some new content to throw at you. Specifically, we want to talk about the new Star Wars 40th anniversary book. I don't know the official title, Nick, so I'm just going to pull out my ass, but it's basically like 40 short stories from the Star Wars universe that 40 different authors worked on, right? Like, it's literally every story is told by a different author, and some of them are part of the story group. And I think last time we talked about it kind of leaked about the Yoda story and how he believes Leia was the chosen one, and that's who he wanted to train. But I think at that point we decided, these are canon-based stories.
Oh yeah, they're definitely canon. People have been really sinking their teeth into them since the book released. It's only been out for 3 days. And there's a lot of buzz around
October 3rd it came out, so I mean, you can get it now on any of your online retailers.
Yeah, Amazon, if you want to. I'm sure if there's a bookstore around you and you're one of those fucking crazy people that still goes to bookstores, you can get it there. But it's on Amazon, it's on, Audible, all that kind of stuff. Get the book. The stories in it are awesome. But yeah, I mean, like, now you have people that are kind of online posting their favorite short stories from the book and stuff, and we learn a lot of cool new canon stories about some of our favorite people in this book, and we get to learn a little bit more backstory about encounters that happened in the movies and exactly what people were doing, why people reacted certain ways in certain situations. So it's got a lot of good meat to it.
I agree, man, and trust me, I am not a book reader, and I'm not someone that's saying that people that read books are lame or this, that, and the other thing. I get it. I've read books and I've enjoyed them, but they're a time suck, especially if you are going to read it old school and literally buy the book and flip the pages. I mean, we're talking. What do you think for a 300-400 page book? How many hours for the average person?
I mean, I think the average person is going to take at least 12 to 15.
I was going to say, what? Yeah, I was going to say 10 at the fastest.
Yeah, I mean, there's those freaks out there who can speed read like crazy. I'm not one of those. Like, I can't speed read or anything. I can't, like...
Yeah, I would say 10 hours at best on a 400-pager.
Yeah. So, like, if you're sitting down and you're dedicating yourself to read that book, like, it's going to take you, a good chunk
of time. And that's a fair amount of time, especially if you're someone like me and possibly you, where I just feel like our generations, there's a lot more opportunities to express yourself, the internet in general, websites, and then obviously all the social media shit, me with my pictures on Instagram, the Entertainment Buddha site. I mean, I got so much shit going on top of masters and my career and yada, yada, yada. So you do, I feel like, and it's kind of sad, honestly, people in our generation, especially generations younger than us, they have to compete with so many things now for their entertainment. It's like a book to me at this point is like,
Yeah, it has no.
I'd rather binge a show on Netflix, or I'd rather play a fucking game on my iPad,
Instant
or I'd rather do this.
Like,
exactly.
And it is kind of weird because when I was younger, I used to read a lot more because we didn't have those things. We didn't have like Facebook on your phone or Twitter, any shit like that. Like, you would sit down and you would read a book, or like, your only other options for instant gratification entertainment was like flip on a TV show, but like you couldn't really pick which show you wanted to watch. You just had to watch what was on TV, or you go outside and you hang out with your fucking friends. I mean, video games were there too, so you could play a video game, but like you didn't have all of this like attention sucking shit around you. So like sitting down and reading a book wasn't as like weirdly impractical as it is now, especially now that we have like audiobooks that are at
well, it's
your
sad that we're
fingertips.
even talking about this, but I mean, at least for me, it's the truth. And I've never been a big reader. I'm not going to come out and say that I've done this, that, and the other thing. I mean, hell, I didn't read the fucking Lord of the Rings until I was 20 years old, and that's one of my like biggest disappointments in life. I was probably 21 because I'd read The Hobbit, or I had someone read it to me, but it still wasn't like that impactful. But when I went and saw the Fellowship in theaters in 2001, it literally changed my life.
Yeah, I mean,
changed my life because I when I watched it, I'm like, this has been in book form for fucking like 50 years.
Yeah.
I mean, what the fuck am I doing in my life? So I went right and I read them. I went bang, bang, bang. I mean, I read the whole goddamn trilogy. I'm like, what? This could be one of the greatest works of literary art in the past 1,000 years.
Yeah, I mean, the Lord of the Rings.
And I'm not kidding. Like I'm not trying to be like sensational. I still believe to this day what Tolkien achieved with The Hobbit, the Silmarillion, and the Lord of the Rings, and then Unfinished Tales, this, that, and the other thing, and all the languages he created, all the races he created. His fiction is more important, and it will last longer than some of the shit that we studied. I mean, I'm telling you.
Oh yeah, I mean, he influenced so many.
What that guy
stories.
achieved is insane.
Yeah, I mean, just think about like who drew influences from Tolkien. I mean, obviously you have
anyone that's done anything with
fantasy, sci-fi. I mean, Lucas pulled from him.
Orcs,
Roddenberry, Gene Roddenberry for Star Trek took influence from J.R. I mean, like all of the great fantasy, science fiction writers, movie makers, and stuff like that. A lot of the inspiration for the depth of the world and the depth of the story building and stuff like that. Well, yeah,
I mean, given different races, languages. I mean, dude, he literally wrote alphabets for the dwarfs, the elves, the hobbits. I mean, the orcs. He broke it all the way down to fucking alphabets.
Yeah, I mean, now you have people out there who can speak Elvish.
Or they're experts. They're experts. Yeah. People pay them for it.
Liv Tyler, during the filming of The Lord of the Rings, was fluent in Elvish. Like, she could speak it. And, like, it was an actual language.
Oh, dude. So, yeah, you've watched all the appendices. And to this day, there has not been a single director or film project that has rivaled the behind-the-scenes footage that Peter Jackson did for The Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit.
Yeah. I mean, I have the full, like, when that...
Right? I mean, dude, he dedicated 2 full Blu-rays to behind-the-scenes. I mean, we're talking, like, 8 hours worth of shit per movie.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he went as far in depth as possible. And I feel like he had an idea of what he was making while he was making. He's like, this needs to be documented. So
when I watched those for The Lord of the Rings, it honestly made me regret decisions I made in life. Like, I was like, man.
It's like, this dude just...
why am I not working with this guy?
Yeah, I mean...
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I mean, at least me, the older I get, and I've had a good life. I'm not complaining, but there are times I'm like, man, why couldn't I have figured out what I really, really, really enjoyed at a young age?
Yeah, I agree.
And really took advantage of being young and not needing to be that responsible and just being like, hey, fuck it, I'm moving to fucking New Zealand because I hear this Jackson guy's shooting Lord of the Rings there, and maybe I can get on.
Yeah, I mean, that is...
maybe I can do this. Maybe I can hold the fucking sound stick.
Yeah, get your hands into the movie business like that. And,
right, maybe I can be the gaffer.
Yeah. Dude, it's an achievement, that film trilogy. And, I mean, obviously, if you're a fan of The Lord of the Rings, you know that the Hobbit movies didn't quite live up to that.
Well, yeah, and that's why I give them a pass in the end. I'm like, hey, in the end... They're not horrible, but they definitely did not capture the magic that the Lord of the Rings.
And a lot of that has to do with like the literal last minute director.
It's just the content, yeah.
Like the content. You're right, because I mean the content they're pulling from The Hobbit is tiny.
It's a book versus three books.
Tiny compared to the Lord of the Rings, but also like Peter Jackson having to come in at like the 0 hour because Guillermo del Toro.
He never wanted to do it, but he also didn't want the project to disappear and blow up. So I think in the end, when Guillermo got yanked, he was like, all right, fuck it. There's no other choice.
Yeah, pretty much. So,
because he admitted it. I mean, on the third movie, especially, he's like, we literally filmed shit out of our assholes.
Yeah, I mean, he just wasn't prepared. He jumped, like you said, he jumped in to save it more than to actually like create something. And you can see like in the first movie they had like, I guess it was behind the scenes images of what these orcs were supposed to look like under Guillermo del Toro, and it looked completely different. Like Jackson basically used just like full CGI orcs that kind of looked like shit, but like del Toro had this intricate costume, practical orcs built out, and you could kind of see like where that passion loss came in when Jackson took it back over. Like he definitely still wanted to do it, but he wasn't as invested and as all in as he was on the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Like he just, it's hard to carry that type of energy over for 6 full movies. Like he went all out with Lord of the Rings. It's one of the best trilogies of movies in cinematic history. And then, I mean, he was kind of done, and he really just...
Oh, I agree. I mean, I almost think it's the best trilogy ever.
Yeah, it's cool.
I really do, even over the original Star Wars. And as much, I know we're on a Star Wars podcast, but I've had that debate. Like when you look at it from end to end, everything, I don't know. It's close.
See, like
it's
to
close,
me, like the where the distinction lies that like puts Star Wars kind of in a different height to me.
It's original.
Exactly.
It's original.
Like with the Lord of the Rings movies, you're working off of excellent source material. Like excellent.
Exactly.
Like, Star Wars is literally.
You're right. You win. Yeah. No. Okay. Yeah. I'm dumb. I'm stupid. Yeah. You win. You're exactly right. There is no argument for that. All right. So, anyways, this is a Star Wars podcast, by the way. We're not. This isn't like LordofTheRings.net.
Yeah.
So what we wanted to dive into is this book that released this week, and it's 40 short stories from the past 40 years of Star Wars, and it's 40 different authors. A lot of them are from the Lucasfilm Story Group, so that means they have a heavy hand in shaping the Star Wars narrative universe. Nick and I, being the people we are, we're pieces of shit. We didn't buy it.
Not right away. I literally
people.
One click.
Honestly, they should send it to us.
Give it to us for free.
Okay, because we're gonna promote it. I'll review it and I'll get it some hits there. There and the other thing, but whatever. They didn't. So we're just kind of basing some of our opinions which has been published out there by other outlets that have checked it out. And I think IO9, which is a Gizmodo property, they did a pretty good job of breaking down some of the key stories out of the 40 that fans of at least the original trilogy or the Skywalker saga in general will appreciate. So, Nick, let's just kind of go through some of these. I mean, we don't have to spend a ton of time on a lot of them because some of them are just like, all right, yeah, that's cool. Others are, yeah, hey, let's kind of talk about it. So, the first one, I don't know if I guess it's interesting, but I don't think it's that surprising. But it's the fact that A New Hope literally starts about an hour after Rogue One ends.
Yeah, so there was some speculation after the end of Rogue One, like, well, how long exactly does it take for the Devastator to catch up with the Tantive 4 and then the whole, A New Hope opening to take place? A lot of people thought it was 10 minutes, 15 minutes. There was no solid timeline. And now from this book, we found out that it's literally an hour. Basically, the reason that the Tantive 4 was even there on the Rebel fleet during this whole, battle over Scarif was because it was there for repairs. Like its deflector shields were damaged. It was having repairs done. And then all of a sudden this massive battle breaks out over Scarif. If you remember, the battle over Scarif was not planned. That was very much improvised by Jyn and the Rebels. The Rebels within the Rebel Alliance. So it's not like the entire fleet was at the ready to go for this thing. Like, they were kind of off doing their own shit, and then when they realized that it was all going down over Scarif, they had to get there, and the Tantive 4 got caught up in this. So they were getting repairs done, the battle breaks out, they end up over Scarif, and then when they finally kind of, jettison and get off from the battle with the plans, and with Leia, as we can see, obviously we know that already, it takes the Devastator about an hour to catch up because there was an ion trail from their engines that the Imperials were able to follow.
Well, what I thought was interesting was that Antilles wanted to scuttle the ship, and they were only 8 minutes away from essentially blowing the bitch up and taking crash pods down the Tatooine anyway.
Yeah. So that's another.
Well, because that's where they wanted to go. I mean, in the end, they wanted to be on Tatooine.
Yeah, that was another. Really
she wanted to deliver the message to Obi-Wan in person.
And see, that's a really cool thing to think about, because now we know that they knew, at least Leia knew, that Ben was on Tatooine.
Oh, totally. So yeah, I mean, because before we only thought that it was just randomly that she was in Tatooine's airspace, because even after watching Rogue One, it was still on. Well, yeah, they grabbed the Death Star plans. Yeah. We forget that she also was on a mission to deliver a message to Obi-Wan.
Yeah, exactly. And she knew where to go. Now, why did she know where to go? How did she know? So I would have assumed her dad told Bail, obviously not.
Right, but do you think in the end it was? Do you think it was ultimately planned that Leia was to get the Death Star plans, or do you think that she got them because they knew that Mon Calamari ship was done?
Oh yeah, I don't think.
And like their only way to get the plans out was to be like, all right, hey, you guys are you're docked. I know you're damaged, but fuck it, get out.
Yeah, like seriously, just from seeing the end of Rogue One, where like the plans were handed off in such a chaotic manner, like Vader's literally killing everybody on this ship. Take these plans and just get them somewhere. Like, they can't be here.
Well, yeah, because even Jyn and Cassian, like, their only goal was to transmit to the mothership.
Yeah, and I don't think that the original plan probably had nothing to do with Obi-Wan. Like, the original plan was probably, if we do get these plans...
Well, in Rogue One, remember... Mon Mothma does say something to Bail like, "Hey, what about that Jedi friend of yours?"
Yeah, like they.
So I think he was always to be contacted, but like we're saying, I think Leia's original mission was just to go get old Ben.
Yeah, exactly. Like
I don't think it was to deal with the plans.
No. I would assume you would want to keep those things separated just in case something were to happen. Leia was to run into some Imperial entanglements.
Right. I mean, those are two very important missions. You don't want the same person and ship dealing with
this. But, as the circumstances played out in Rogue One, there was not a lot of choices. Like, it was either...
Exactly. As you said, the Battle of Scarif was not a planned battle from the Rebel standpoint. It was literally Cassian and 20 people went rogue. And then Radish was like, "Hey, fuck it, let's do it."
Yeah,
and they just all fucking roll out, and they're kicking ass. And then everyone forgets that Darth Vader is still in the fucking universe.
Yeah,
and he rolls in literally with like his capital ship and two others, and just fucks everyone up.
Yeah,
I mean, he's just like pop, 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 pop. Later, Rebel capital ship is done, right? I mean, as soon as he showed up, he took out Radiss's fucking flagship in a second.
Yeah, I mean, Raddis was definitely like, it's good that he was so pumped and ready to go, just Leroy Jenkins
he was a
right
cowboy.
Into that bitch, but like he had
exactly.
no plans. There was no thought as to like, okay, wait. So when we get this,
he's the Leroy Jenkins of the Mon Calamari.
He was ready, boy.
I mean, he was like, Leroy Jenkins. He just was like, pew, and Akbar's like, no.
He's like, wait, let's think this shit through. They definitely didn't have a plan. So it was all improvised. Like, as soon as those plans got up to the capital ship, they were like, okay, we got this shit, so we have to get out of here, like, as soon as fucking possible. But it was too late. Vader was there.
They're like, oh yeah, well, our ship's dead.
Yeah, so as we saw, the handoff was made. The plans were uploaded onto some sort of disk. The handoff was made right before, all of the rebels were slaughtered on the Mon Calamari ship, and then off we go into, A New Hope, where the story takes place.
I mean, again, people, that's why this book, even though Nick and I ourselves haven't bought it yet, that's why this book is a must-read for Star Wars fans.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that shit's great to me. And even this next story, dude, I don't think there's anything we have to spend even a minute on, but there's a story to explain why R5-D4 motivator exploded on the Lars farm.
Literally, just like the smallest events get covered in this. And I will say that I one-click bought it right before we started recording on Amazon, so it's on my Kindle. Like, it's on my devices now. So
He's reading it as we're podcasting.
But, like, even stuff like this, like, everybody assumes that, like, oh, well, that's not a big deal. R5-D4 motivator popped, whatever. So now they have R2 and they have C-3PO. That just happened. It wasn't like, no, there was a plan behind this, people. Like, R2-D2 was literally, like, planning to sabotage this droid because he knew that the Jawas were going to sell it to the Lars family, and so R2-D2 was literally like plotting to kill this droid, so he was the one that was going to get picked up by the Lars family.
No, but in the end, R5's like, all right, I understand you now, so I'm going to play my part. I think that's heroic. Like, R5's a fucking hero. I mean, he really says to R2, like,
I'll sacrifice.
I get it, man.
Quote unquote. Yeah. Like, I understand what your mission is.
Like, I get it, dude. Yeah. I get it, my brother. I get it, my fellow astromech. I think it's fucking beautiful.
It is. But, okay.
Like, this is fantastic shit.
And then for those of you who are worried, R5 did not die. He lived on. He
did it. I mean, he did it enough to know that he wouldn't kill himself, but enough that he knew he was
And
fucked.
he escapes the Sandcrawler, and he gets away in the end looking for a new home for himself. So,
but yeah, Nick was right. I mean, R2 is basically threatened murder the night before.
Yeah, like, he legitimately was going to kill this droid, and then, like, it took, like, R5 kind of, like, sat him down. He's like, dude, wait, just like, let's talk this shit out a little bit.
That's so R2 though, man, isn't it?
Because R2 doesn't think about shit before he does it. Like, if you...
No, exactly. He's the biggest badass. I mean, in the end, if it's not for R2-D2, there is nothing.
No. I mean, like,
think back to I mean, I know for you and I it's kind of tough to do this, but think back to his initial introduction
into episode 1.
If it's not for him, fucking Padme's ship gets blown up the moment she tries to leave Naboo.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would assume that 95% of that was due to luck because there were so many other astromech droids literally around him.
That's the magic of R2-D2, dude. That's the magic of R2-D2.
He's able to do it. He's able to pull shit out of his ass at the last minute.
The Force is with him. The Force is with him.
True, yeah. I mean, one of the only droids that can probably say that the
Force still is. I mean, just look at what we know of him going into The Force Awakens and beyond. He was so dedicated to the ways of the Force and his master that when Luke fell off the map, R2 took it upon himself to just be like, you know what? I can't go on.
Shut down, self-exile.
Yeah, he's like, I can't do it.
Yep. I mean, and like that's what you're gonna get in this book. These stories are gonna give you so like it doesn't seem like much knowing this and stuff, but it gives so much more background when you watch the movies now. When R5's motivator
totally. I mean,
pops.
dude, yeah, you can't argue. I mean, yes, now you know something. And this type of shit, dude, this is what I was expecting to learn with the prequels.
Yeah, like
this type of stuff, like this type of insight, but with clearly with the main characters, but like these types of interesting backstory narratives.
Yeah, I mean. That's what we all hope.
And we didn't get it.
That's what we all hope to get. It's not exactly what we got. There was definitely good background that was filled in. I mean, do we agree with how it was filled in? No, for the most part. But, I mean, it filled in some gaps. But you didn't get, I guess, like, you didn't get the depth that we were looking for. Or even if we did get depth, all it did was make us want more. And that's like one thing about being a Star Wars fan. It's like no matter how much you get, no matter how much information you get, no matter where it comes from, you're always going to want more.
It's never enough, dude. It's never enough.
So this
never enough.
The next story, I think, honestly, is probably one of the coolest ones that's listed so far. I'll probably have a new favorite after I read through the book. But this one centers around Qui-Gon and what his life is like. And I mean, not really what his life is like, but him as a Force ghost communing with Obi-Wan. So essentially...
Well, hold on. Before you get into this, do you find it interesting that this particular story about this is taking place after Obi-Wan ran into Luke and Luke went home to see what happened to his aunt and uncle? I mean, did you read like the first part there?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely...
It's like supposedly this short story takes place as Obi-Wan is reflecting on a moment, but like that, in terms of canon, that's when this is taking place. This is when Obi-Wan is reflecting on this
I guess
story.
It's like in that moment he realized that his death might be imminent as well. Is that kind of what you took from it? Because like he's...
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't... It's either that or like, was this the first time that Obi-Wan realized that he could Force Ghost? But I thought that he learned that way back when Yoda teased it was a possibility. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and in the story, like after that part, like we learned that Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon had been communing through this Force Ghost kind of bond for about 10 years before A New Hope happened. So it didn't happen like immediately.
Yeah, okay, so yeah, it goes on and says that he's been visiting Obi-Wan for at least 10 years before.
Yeah, so it didn't like the interactions with Qui-Gon didn't happen like immediately once he got to Tatooine. It took a while.
Yeah, it's probably what like
it was probably like 10 years after he had been there because Luke was 19. So if he had been communing with Obi-Wan for 10 years leading up to A New Hope, so Luke was already like 9 or 10 years old before.
Yeah, he's probably like 8 or 9. Yeah.
So he was. So I mean, Ben was on Tatooine for like 8 or 9 years before he even got to start communing with Qui-Gon, and I don't know if that had to do with like training on his part. Did he have to go through specific, types of mental force training or trials in some sort of way before he could have this interaction? But yeah,
I just think it's like the more you read this, I mean, he's literally talking to Obi-Wan about Obi-Wan's demise.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what...
I mean, he literally says, when talking to Obi-Wan about Luke and his former Padawan's exile coming to an end, which is essentially Obi-Wan's death.
Yeah, well,
Qui-Gon, at that time, he was not only seeing the current old Ben that we met, but he was also seeing the Obi-Wan as the general in the Clone Wars, but also as the young Obi-Wan to him as his Padawan.
Yeah, and they also say even as a child. So that's something that's interesting to note, is that as a Force ghost, and this...
He knew it was coming.
He knew his death was coming, but he also could see across time, and this almost seems like a we don't know yet, but it almost seemed like it was specific to Qui-Gon, that he could, see across time, essentially. Like he could see every iteration.
It's hinted that he is one of the strongest, if not the strongest, Force user that has been able to manipulate the Force after.
Yeah,
death.
I mean they even went as far as to say
like
that
he can almost fully realize himself.
Yeah.
Like not like a ghost like Obi-Wan, but literally like
almost
appearing and being able to touch and everything.
Yeah, like he can smell things, he can sense things like a real person, is what they say in the story. So I mean, like, and he can almost take a full corporeal form, like you were saying. Like it's not just this hollow ghost. Like when you see Qui-Gon as a Force ghost, it's almost like you're looking at a real person. Like with Yoda and with Obi-Wan.
Yeah, it's clear that they're vapor.
But Qui-Gon was clearly a different level, and I mean that's important because with all of this talk of the Chosen One and stuff like that, and
okay, I want to clarify something I said earlier. He clearly does not tell Obi-Wan.
No, he doesn't. He does not tell Obi-Wan that his death is imminent, but he tells him that,
he knows.
your exile is coming to an end soon. Like more or less, like, hey, like this stuff with Luke is.
So
is coming,
I mean, as it was kind of hinted, I mean, all along he's been training Obi-Wan to become this Force ghost, and I think that's why Obi-Wan knows that when he does confront Anakin again, that's his best course of action.
Yeah. So I mean, there's some
is to give up his physical form and become one with the Force, because then he can always be with Luke.
Yeah, exactly. That's how.
Always.
That's how he knows that he will be. More
he
powerful.
knows it works. He knows it works.
Yeah, he's got proof.
Because his own master has been coming back and teaching him.
Yeah, so that line that he feeds Vader in the final
I will
battle,
become more powerful than you can ever imagine.
It's definitely not. He wasn't just pulling that out of his ass. Like, he was like, no, I know what's going to happen to me when I go out. Like,
he knew it. And that's why it blew Anakin's mind when he did it, and literally nothing was there. Yeah,
just fell. I
mean, you could tell he was shocked. He's like, because you got to think that's never happened to him. Everyone he's murdered, he's literally gruesomely murdered.
Yeah, I mean, he's never witnessed that before. Nor
all the Jedis, every Jedi he struck down, none of them just disappeared.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't even know that this was a possibility, like this ascending into a Force ghost.
So, do you think here's a tangent coming? Do you think when he saw that, does he possibly start to question himself even more?
Yeah. I mean, you have to remember that, like,
do you not think he feels like, oh fuck?
Yeah, I mean, he thought that
Obi-Wan figured that shit out.
Yeah, he thought that Sidious, that Palpatine
was everything.
Yeah, was as high as you could get in the Force. Like, this guy knows how to, do all this shit lightning. He's got special powers that nobody's ever seen
But in
before.
the end, he didn't teach him anything.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the mastery of Palpatine. Yeah. I mean, he completely duped this fool.
Yeah, he duped him hardcore. And then, so like you said, Anakin sees this, Vader sees this, like, there is a power that Palpatine doesn't even know about, because, I mean, as far as we know, like, Palpatine doesn't become a Force ghost. We've never seen it before.
Right. He supposedly knows a secret to keep living. He doesn't know how to keep living past death.
It's just, he doesn't have the ability to see beyond a physical life, Palpatine. Like, he doesn't even realize that there could be life after physical death through the Force. And that's something that once Anakin / Vader figures that out, there's definitely some doubts in his mind, I think, at least. And also, what I would like to know is, like, when Obi dies, does he try to reach out to Vader? I mean, like, clearly he can take form in front of Luke. Luke sees him as a Force ghost. Does he come up to Vader?
Man,
like,
that should be a short story.
I think that would be awesome to at least try to explore. Like, does he reach out through the Force?
Well, you gotta wonder, because I mean, there's a part of me that thinks no, because you just feel like he has so much disdain for him by the time he meets Luke.
Yeah.
And the way he talks about, I mean, literally, let's be real, he talks about Vader as a completely separate entity.
Yeah, and I mean,
like, he talks about Vader like they're two different people.
They essentially, I mean, he does, and they essentially are, and that's something that's another part that's covered by these stories is why he can't.
It's just like, that's how Obi-Wan had to deal with it. I mean, that's how he had to deal with it. He's just like, I can't even comprehend that this is still this little boy Anakin.
Yeah, exactly. Like, he doesn't call out Vader as Anakin during their duel because he cannot come to that place.
You're
in
only
his
a
mind.
master of evil, Darth. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
So he's literally separated Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader into like two separate people in his mind, and he doesn't know Darth Vader, but he knows Anakin Skywalker, even though they are physically the same person. But I feel like after he dies and after he goes out, like, it would almost be like, to me, it would be like my mission. If I was Obi-Wan, I'm dead now, I'm Force Ghost form, like, it would be my mission to bring
I mean,
him back.
what can Vader do to you at that point?
I mean, there's
nothing. He can't do anything.
And like, in your heart, in your the deepest recesses of your being, like, you know that there's got to be good still out there. I mean, Luke believed that. He vocalized that. He said that to Leia. Like, there's still good in him. I can bring him back. And I feel like Obi-Wan felt that way too. He had to. So I would be so surprised if he didn't at least try to reach out to him, try to appear to him maybe one time and show him, like, look, you thought that the Emperor was the only way. You thought that Palpatine was going to be the one to show you how to conquer death. But I'm the one who conquered death. I'm in front of you. You struck me down on the Death Star. You watched my body disappear, and I'm here now. So you can't say that, the Emperor is the ultimate power in the universe anymore. You know that there's power greater than him. So just you still can leave. You can still turn your back on him. So maybe over time of, Obi-Wan coming to him, maybe that's why he, that influenced his decision at the end a little bit. Obviously seeing Luke being killed was a huge factor, but also realizing that, like, I've seen my old master resurrected through the Force. Like, I don't have to be a slave to this Emperor anymore. I can make the decision to turn on him and to go back to the light side, and there could still be life after death for me. So, I mean, I think that would be a cool thing to explore.
Totally. Just like this next story, which kind of explains why Greedo had such a beef with Han. I mean, I even think this is funny that they approach this, and what it comes down to, there's some sort of love triangle.
I mean, love triangle, I guess, is the way that Greedo would think of it. But according to the story, like, Greedo had, like, a hardcore crush on this woman named Uncellata or Unchelta. I don't know. Uncelta. You people could say it however you want to. But essentially, like, he was crushing on this girl really hard, but never really made a move. And then Han made the move and got the girl, and then broke her heart. And Greedo's been kind of after Han ever since then. So,
yeah, I thought that was funny. I mean, there's not much to go into because we know what happens to Greedo, and fuck all that Han shot first bullshit. I mean, that's one of the worst changes out there.
Yeah,
I as a kid, I didn't care if he shot first or not. I always thought that was the way Greedo should have been wasted, period.
Yeah, exactly. Like, Han is a smooth motherfucker, takes his gun out, bam, he's dead. Like, Greedo does not shoot first, people. Han shoots first.
Oh, I always thought, I mean, the fact that Greedo came up and fronted Han with a fucking pistol in his face, why the fuck shouldn't Han shoot his ass?
I mean, the dude...
I mean, what the fuck?
Is pointing a gun. Like, Han is just sitting there, feet up on the fucking bar, and then Greedo's got a gun to his face the whole time he's talking. Han is just chill as fuck, and he knows that, all right, to get out of this, I need to kill this guy. So he takes out his gun, shoots him, and that's the deal. Like, come on.
Right, yeah.
And
we don't need to, like, pretend that Greedo provoked it.
No, I mean, that's just completely unnecessary. Also, we knew, like, Greedo was after him for Jabba, so, like, he wasn't probably gonna kill him. Like, Jabba wanted him alive, more than likely. So, I mean, logically, he probably wouldn't have shot. He wouldn't have shot him just because, like, Han's talking shit in his face. Like, come on. Like, Greedo's give him a little bit more credit than that.
Yeah, like I said, it's one of the worst special edition changes. It's up there, but not even remotely close still to the Return of the Jedi changes. It just make me want to vomit. Dude, this next one, honestly, I think is way cooler than I first thought about. And it's about Wooher, who is the bartender at the Mos Eisley Cantina in New Hope when Luke rolls in. And, he bitches at Luke for the droids. But there's the short story in this book explains why he's got beef with droids, and it basically revolves around the fact that when he was a little kid during the Clone Wars, he saw battle droids blast his parents and all of his neighbors. But at the same time, he also saw what the Jedi did and became kind of enamored with them and looked up to him and almost worshipped him. So it both explains why he hates droids and doesn't want them in his bar, but also why he didn't tell the Imperials that this Jedi-looking dude in a robe with a hood was hanging out in his bar too.
Yeah, I mean, this is another example of like just background information that you would have never thought to care about.
It's fantastic.
Yeah, so I mean, we all just like when you see that scene initially with no backstory, you just like, wow, what's the deal, guy? Like, why do you hate droids? And you immediately just think that like, he's some the way they put it in the article is robo-racist. So like, he's just an asshole who doesn't like droids, but this story gives more context to it, and it actually like makes this one-off character that we see in the bar one time into like a kind of a tragic figure. Like his whole family was slaughtered in the Clone Wars by these battle droids, and he was saved by the Jedi. I mean, like, it's a pretty deep story to be able to tell for a character that is literally on screen for less than 5 minutes. I mean, and that's the kind of shit that you get from this book. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so the next one, I guess, is about Boba Fett, and it kind of goes into the whole disintegration line that we hear in Empire Strikes Back, right? And apparently it just explains that at one point in time, Vader had hired Boba to do something, but he fucking disintegrated the targets, and Vader's like, well, yeah, go fuck yourself. I'm not paying you for that because you can't prove you really killed them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty solid line of reasoning from Vader. Like, yeah, it's like, Fett rolls up to you after the contract's supposed to be done, and he's like, oh yeah, I did it, I just disintegrated him. Like, how are you, like, proof, people, proof is in the pudding. Bring something back. I mean, like, bring their clothes or something. You can't just disintegrate people and say that you killed them. Like, you have to have some sort of proof. So yeah, there was a reason behind Vader telling Boba Fett specifically, because like he points him out and he's like, no disintegrations, you Boba Fett.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
He wasn't just saying it to the other collected bounty hunters there. Like, he had a reason for saying it directly to the Fett man, and it's because he can get a little overzealous on his his bounty calls. Let's put it that way. He's not exactly always bringing people back in carbonite like he did with Han. He was more likely to kill his target than to capture, it seems. So, this next story.
Yeah, let's not even deal with this one because it's just so random. It's not even worth
most
it.
people.
It's about the holiday special.
Yeah, most people might not even get who's being referenced here, but like in the holiday special, B. Arthur. Right. Everybody knows who B. Arthur is. I would imagine.
If you like the Golden Girls, I mean, you know who we're talking about, but it's not even worth talking about. But the next one I think is briefly because, again, it just goes back to show the love that Obi-Wan at least had for Anakin, because as we saw Anakin in Attack of the Clones, it's pretty clear that he resented Obi-Wan.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I think he definitely had a love for him and he respected him, but at the same time he always felt like Obi-Wan was kind of holding him back. But what this short story kind of explains is that the reason when Obi-Wan sees Darth Vader again, or Anakin, on the Death Star, and he can't call him Anakin, is because it's too emotionally difficult for Obi-Wan to reference his old Padawan.
Yeah, and this is something
by name.
Like, this is actually something that I brought up in our last cast. Like, well, why doesn't that happen? And it wasn't even in reference to this book. It was just we were talking about that duel and how it broke down and stuff like that. And I thought to myself, like, well, why doesn't he just call him Anakin? Like, that would be a powerful moment. And now we have that answered. And like you said, it's because he can't confront that in his mind. Like, he still does not want to make that connection that Darth Vader is Anakin Skywalker, his old Padawan that he trained and he essentially raised from a child. I mean, you have to remember that when Qui-Gon was killed, Anakin was still...
He was 9 or 10. I mean, he took him over at 9 or 10.
A 9-year-old boy. So not only was he his master, his Jedi master, he was essentially a father figure to him. Like, he raised this kid from when he was, a preteen all the way up until, his ultimate fall to the dark side. And not only that, like, he was the one, like, that battle that they had at the end of episode 3 was, I mean, it was visceral. It was a brutal battle that saw Obi-Wan literally disfigure and dismember his best friend.
He fucked him up.
Yeah.
I mean, he, for as strong as Anakin it was, I mean, Obi-Wan fucked him up.
Yeah, I mean,
and told him. He called it out. He's like, dude, as lame as the line may have sounded, he's like, dude, don't do it.
It's like, look,
it's like, I know I'm gonna fuck you up if you do this.
And it's not even that just he knew. It's like Anakin knew too. He's like, look, dude, you know that I have positioning on you. You know that if you try to do something stupid, I'm not gonna, like.
I think Anakin at that point was so, like, fueled by rage and like his own sense of I can do whatever the fuck I want that he didn't think Obi-Wan was gonna do that.
Yeah, you're probably right there. And it's just,
I think that's why he did it. He's like, hey, fuck you, dude. I'm Anakin.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fuck you up
I mean,
anyways. But then Obi-Wan was like, wow. In 2 moves, he fucking cut off everything but one
legs,
arm.
Yep, legs, and I mean, his other human arm, he cut that one off. And he left.
Yeah, the only thing he left was his robot arm. That
so,
was it. His robot arm and his head are the only things he left attached to his.
And I mean, if done by a better director, that scene after he cuts his, I mean, like, even done by George Lucas, that scene does still have some gravity to it. Like, Obi-Wan standing there on the side of the, I guess you would say the lava field, and kind of just yelling, just unleashing his emotions on Anakin, like, what the fuck happened to you, dude? Like, you were it. You were the one. And you fall for some bullshit from this dark side user who's been, off in the shadows for, however long. You're going to fall for his bullshit.
Imagine how that made him feel. He failed.
Yeah. I mean, not only...
He said, I failed you.
Yeah. I mean, not only did he have to watch Anakin descend into darkness, he also had to realize that, like, this person that I've invested, almost 20 years of my life into has so easily turned to the dark side. And
he knew he's like, he obviously knew his powers. He's like, oh, fuck.
Yeah. And I mean,
shit.
And then you also, but that again is like a huge up to Obi-Wan. Like, he was able to fight and not only hold his own, but defeat.
He beat his ass. Yeah. He beat his ass. In the end, he beat his ass.
Like, highest midichlorian count ever. We heard it in episode 1, and Obi-Wan just fucking cut him down.
And I'm pretty sure it's explained, like, that's part of Vader's rage and why he moves to Mustafar is because he wants to be reminded of his utter defeat at the hands of his master. Like, he wants to be reminded how he betrayed his wife. He wants to be reminded of all that fucking misery he caused himself.
Yeah, I mean, that's where he draws his power from as Darth Vader.
That misery eventually turns into hate, and that turns into his anger, and that's what fuels him.
Yeah, and
until his son comes around and reminds him, like, no, you fucking idiot.
Like, there's another way. There was another way the whole time. Like, you didn't have to do this. Yeah. And there's still a way for you to come
can be
back.
as strong as you want.
Yeah. I mean, it's a powerful, like, the relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin, even after death, is such a powerful, spot. It's such a powerful story to be told between those two characters. And I mean, yeah, the prequels did it wrong, but I mean, now we have we have this story here in this book. We have the comics. We have the hopes of an Obi-Wan standalone film that I'm sure will explore that.
It'd be fantastic.
So yeah, I mean, lots of good shit.
Because I mean, I've been thinking if they do the Obi standalone, you could definitely make a case that there's a fair amount of Vader shit in there too.
Yeah, I mean, whether there's probably not going to be a direct confrontation, but just at least, seeing what Vader was doing, hearing reports.
Exactly. Or like how Vader sent Boba Fett to go kind of check shit out on Tatooine after getting a hot tip and stuff like that. Because that's in the comics, like the new one.
Yeah, so I think that it's almost impossible to separate one from the other at this point. Like you can't, like Obi-Wan will always be linked to Anakin / Darth Vader in some way, shape, or form. So if you're going to dedicate an entire full-length feature film to him, leaving out Vader would be remiss.
Oh, you could do, I mean, there's a case you could do a trilogy of Obi Vader movies.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think
even in that short time frame, just from Sith on the New Hope.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean,
I would pay to go watch it in a heartbeat.
Clearly, just from this book, we learned that Obi himself had a lot of training to do to get to that moment where he could commune with Qui-Gon. So there's a story to be told there in itself. And then we already know that there is a story to be told with Anakin and with Vader, his transition into this not only his new body, but his new role as, I mean, essentially enforcer of the galaxy. He goes around, he's the muscle, he is hunting the remaining Jedi.
He's a fucking professional hitman.
Yeah, and not to mention, like, you not only have that, but then just his, like, I would take a 2-hour-long movie of just his inner monologue. Like, what is he mentally
Yeah, that's
doing?
what I want. I don't care about seeing Vader in action. I mean, even that brief glimpse in Rogue One is enough for me. I want to know what the fuck is in his head.
Yeah, I mean, we see just like the scene in Rogue One, not even the scene where Vader, chops up all the rebels, like, when he's sitting in that bacta tank and we see it drain when...
he's just suffering.
Yeah, like Krennic is there, he arrives on Mustafar, and to see that visceral moment where, like, he's literally hanging in this...
He's a nothing. Yeah. I mean, he's a nothing.
And so I want to be in the mindset of that person, not the feared galactic power that we see when he's in the suit. Right. I want to get into the mind.
The broke ass down cripple.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's a lot to be said there.
Because that's the real person.
Yeah, it would be.
Because in the end, he just hides behind the dark side when he puts on his armor.
Yeah, I mean,
and it just becomes pure evil and doesn't even think.
Yeah, I mean, when he's behind that armor, he's like Obi-Wan said, he's more machine than man in that, but there is still a man.
Exactly.
That's behind that suit.
Right. I mean, and that's the whole reason Luke was able to convince him to turn.
Yeah, it's just a lot to be said there. So the next story that's in line is one that we already kind of talked about on the last cast. It was one of the ones.
Yeah, we don't have to go through this one, but it's a whole thing that Yoda thinks that gave more credence to Leia being the chosen one over her brother.
Yeah, so again, that's a pretty powerful thing. I mean, literally the only living Jedi Master left in the galaxy is...
Well, it is big because there are like fans out there that just refuse to believe that anyone else is a chosen one besides Anakin, because he's the only one that was confirmed to be conceived of the Force.
Yeah. I mean, but I'm of the mind that he might not have even been the chosen one to start with. Who knows? I mean, like, the prophecy itself is such an odd, it's worded in such an odd way. One that is, born to bring balance to the Force and all this other stuff. But like we explored in other casts, like, Anakin could have literally been conceived by the dark side. Like, it is possible that Darth Plagueis manipulated the Force to create Anakin. So if that was the case, and he was conceived of the dark side, is he still the chosen one? I mean, I would imagine that the answer to that would be no. Like, regardless, yeah, he was born of the Force, but he was born of evil. He was born of the dark side. And to me, that would almost immediately disqualify him as the chosen one. Unless, like we're talking about, we're just talking a pure numbers standpoint. And then, yeah, he kind of did bring balance, because at the end, you had Obi-Wan and Yoda alive, and then you had Vader and Palpatine alive. So
that's a great point, because a lot of people hang on the fact that even though Luke turned him, he still brought balance, but he didn't.
Yeah, I mean,
because then we only technically had a Jedi left.
Yeah, so it depends on what you're.
It depends on how anal you want to get. Honestly,
it's such a like
what is balance? I mean, is balance when it's only good, or is balance? It's truly it's the definitive version of balance, which to me is you have light and you have dark.
So if that's what the balance was, if that's what balance is, and I have to say, I'll give it to George Lucas here. Like, the way that he wrote that prophecy is actually pretty ingenious, because like he doesn't define what balance is. Like, there's no definition of like, this is when the force is in balance, is when X and Y happen.
It could be what a lot of people are thinking are going to happen in this new trilogy, where Luke himself has said it. The Jedi need to end, but maybe these new Force users are those who are in true balance.
Yeah, exactly. Like, in balance with the light and the dark.
Like, they're definitely not Jedi, because they do practice in the dark side of it.
Yeah, so you could argue that, yes, while there was a balance of Force users when, the whole purging of the Jedi happened, and you only ended up with Obi-Wan and Yoda versus Palpatine and Vader, there wasn't balance in terms of, I guess you would, like you said, like the way that the Force was practiced within those users. Like, because pretty much you had Palpatine and Vader that was almost exclusively dark, like they only used the dark side, and then you had Yoda and Obi-Wan that almost exclusively used the light side. Like, there was no dark side within them, and then, I mean, until the very end, there was no light side within either of the two Sith in the galaxy. So the whole balance thing, I mean, we've talked about it on multiple podcasts. What is balance? When are we going to get there? How can we get there? Like, there's a lot of things that go into balance in the Force, and it was actually, one of the better things that Lucas did with the prequels was probably, word that prophecy the way that he did, and kind of leave it up to, this ambiguous sense of balance and how do you achieve it. But I'm of the camp that, like, Anakin, I think the buck was passed. The chosen one buck was passed on to, maybe it wasn't Luke. Maybe, the whole chosen one thing kind of is just in limbo until the right situation presents itself, or the right Force user presents, his or herself. And then, we take another shot at true balance. So, and like you said, maybe we'll get that in the new Skywalker trilogy that we're currently in.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully. And then we move on to the last kind of major moment. And the more I dug into this one, the more interesting it is to think about. And it revolves around everyone's favorite Mon Mothma. And it essentially kind of describes why she wasn't there during the Battle of Yavin.
Yeah.
All right, so if you remember, we see her in Rogue One, right? I mean, she's there talking to Jyn, and she's the one that basically says, no, we're not going to help you. Go fuck yourself. But then we know the Battle of Yavin happens, and they win and all this good stuff. But the top leader of the Rebel Alliance isn't there. She's not there for the celebration, nothing. It turns out there's a reason for that, and it's not because this just spawned out of nowhere and Star Wars doesn't really have any real continuity anymore. It's because Mon Mothma pretty much decided that once the Death Star was in range of the Yavin Moon, that she was going to head back to the Senate, and basically give herself up and could just kind of plead to people like, hey, fuck the rebels. We need to focus on this Death Star that is literally just blown up 2 planets.
Yeah.
So, can you guys get behind me?
Yeah, that is...
I mean, she basically wanted to stoke like a new rebellion by throwing this rebellion under the bus. and just saying, yeah, they're fucked. They just got blowed up. But look at the power of this guy, and you people need to wake up and let's band together and get a real rebellion going.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, she was ready to throw in the towel. I mean, I don't know, I don't know if any of the Alliance generals, the rebellion generals, knew that. If she was, that she was literally off to say, all right, guys, the rebellion's over. At least, the way that it's been set up now, and then really kind of throw herself at the feet of the former senators that were, a part of the Galactic Republic, the Galactic Empire before before Vader officially announced in the beginning of Episode 4 that the Emperor had dissolved the Senate, so it was no more, and that the regional governors had taken over ownership of their individual sectors. So she was ready to just go to those people, the ex-senators, and say, look, they just blew up, they blew up Alderaan. You saw it. They just blew up Yavin. We need to not just sit here anymore. We need to organize.
Yeah, totally.
And then more than likely, all of those senators knew that the rebellion existed. Obviously, they knew. So she was going to go say, look, we failed. We tried to do it as a small band of rebels, but we can't fight against this force with such small numbers. We need people to band together. We need the systems. We need the resources. We need the military of multiple planets, multiple systems of planets to fight this force. And I'm here to, throw myself on the altar of sacrifice in order to organize this new rebellion now that the other one has failed.
That's what I thought was kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that she wasn't going to hang in till the end. I mean, you could look at it two ways. She was a quitter and she was getting out there, but really she was trying to make the rebellion live on in any way that it possibly could. If she could get off the planet and then maybe stoke this new rebellion, like you said, then she was going to do it. But yeah, I mean, pretty much as soon as the Death Star rounded that corner and had a full lock on the moon,
she was out. She's like,
yep,
I'm out.
I'm out of here, people.
Peace.
Good luck. Y'all, I'm not going down with the ship. Y'all are. And she just fucking peaced out.
She's like, good luck. Radis is in charge. And he's like, all right, peace. Let's attack.
Yeah, Leroy. But fucking.
All right, so the last that's pretty much all we want to talk about from that 40 short stories book, which again is out there. Just Google search it, you'll find it. Trust me. I'm gonna eventually get it. Nick's already bought it digitally, but it's packed full of Canon-based little story nuggets that we spent the last hour talking about a few of them. Just think about all the rest you have to go through and learn about. So, the last thing we want to talk about, Nick, and I think this is going to be brief because really, the more I think about it, it's not that huge, but apparently some of Supreme Leader Snoke's powers have been revealed. And not surprisingly, they're kind of rooted in the Sith way of doing things. So, he has telekinesis, force choke, and telepathy.
Yeah, so telekinesis, it's a cool word, but essentially every Force user has telekinesis once they come to grips with how to use it. We can see Rey using telekinesis at the end of Episode 7. Telekinesis is just the ability to move objects with your mind.
Yeah, so I think the more important thing is, are the people in this article, are they just stupid? Because they go on to say, sounds like he might be even more powerful than the Emperor. I'm like, how the fuck do you figure that?
Yeah, it's look, dude.
The Emperor was throwing fucking Senate pods left and right.
Yeah.
At the end of Revenge of the Sith, let alone being able to wield a lightsaber, being able to shoot Force lightning.
Yeah, so to go out on a limb and say he's more powerful than the Emperor, calm down. We have to see what this dude can do first. We know the Emperor, even in an advanced state of age, was able to fight Yoda, one of the best swordsmen in Jedi history, to a stalemate, essentially, within the Senate. And then, like you said, the dude was just like nothing, taking these pods and throwing them at Yoda during that entire fight. He was able to, I mean, like, it also goes to show how powerful Yoda is. I mean, while the Emperor was sitting there channeling lightning directly into his hands, like, you know, both of them were just so immensely.
Yeah, he just ate it. I mean, Yoda just absorbed it into his body. So, I mean, Yoda's a pimp, too.
I mean, but to say that Snoke is...
well, in the end, Snoke clearly got his ass kicked
by somebody.
At one point in time.
I mean, we don't know yet.
Right? I mean, he clearly got the shit beat out of him.
Yeah, and then, I mean, the Force choke, I mean, literally, if you think of... I mean, yeah, Vader can do it. Kylo,
if you can't force choke, like, I mean, what are you? I mean, if you can't force choke,
you're not a dark side user. That's like dark side 101 is force choke. Let's be honest.
Exactly.
I mean, like Anakin.
That's like skill level 1. In
Anakin did a force choke at the end of Episode 3. He had no formal dark side training at all. Like, he just kind of.
He was just pissed at a bitch.
Yeah, he just did it. So, like, that's not even anything big. And telepathy is essentially what we've seen Kylo use in Episode 7. Like, the ability to go into somebody's mind and manipulate it, pull information out from it, like he was trying to do to Rey. Like,
we've seen it forever. It's the goddamn Jedi mind trick.
I mean, now...
Rey did it with no training.
Yeah, to Daniel Craig's, you know, character in Episode 7.
I mean, how in the end, think about it. How did Rey even know that was a fucking Jedi trick? I mean, was she that schooled on Jedi powers? I mean, come on. What are we talking about here?
We do know that she at least knew of the Jedi.
She knew of Luke. Yeah, she knew of Luke. So, I mean, possibly she studied what Jedis could do, but... If you think about it, and again, I don't get this anal, but I bet there are people out there going like, well, how'd she even know that Jedi mind trick was a capability, you know?
Yeah, it's like, yes, we are hardcore fans, but there are leaps of faith that you have to take within a film, especially within, like, you know, a fictional film universe where, like, you're dealing with powers like this and stuff. So you have to suspend your disbelief every now and then. Yes, she did come into her powers very fast, much faster than Luke did. Even into Episode 5, we saw some difficulty he was having with, you know, simple things like moving objects and stuff. And she was able to pick up on some stuff quicker. But, you know, suspend your disbelief. Maybe she did do some research on the Jedi while she was on, you know, Jakku. She was sitting there, had nothing to do. She was a junker, a scavenger. I'm sure she had, you know, access to data pads. She was able to, you know, use the HoloNet to maybe look up, you know, what the Jedi of old could do and, you know, what was Luke Skywalker famous for and stuff. So she probably had an idea of, you know, what Jedi were and what they were able to do in general. But, I mean, like, to say that it's impossible for her to go from, you know, a nobody who didn't know how to use Force abilities at all to, like, you know, just being able to do what I would consider the bare basics of Force using ability. I mean, it's not that big of a leap, right? I mean, come on, people. Calm down. But, yeah, I mean, this Snoke article saying that, like, he's...
I mean, I'm gonna admit I got clickbaited right
Yeah,
here.
I mean, this
was a clickbait. Should have edited it a bit better.
It's some basic Force abilities. I mean, it's interesting that they mention Force choke. Are we gonna see him Force choke somebody? Maybe. Who knows? I mean, like stuff like this. That's, you know, I guess you could say, you know, relatively weakly sourced. We got to see how it plays out. You know, maybe we see him throw a Force choke on Kylo. You know, Kylo, you failed me. You know, what the fuck happened? You couldn't kill a girl who's never trained?
I could see Hux getting an old Force choke.
Yeah, because, I mean, if we look at Vader, he was never too...
Yeah, I mean, Vader was always keen to beat up the Imperial officers.
So I'm sure that that Snoke doesn't have any kind of qualms about throwing a Force choke out on a First Order officer every now and then. So,
yeah, well, hopefully, I mean, as we round out this cast, I mean, I'm going to try to get it out Monday, which is it's a few days from now, but Monday's going to be October the 9th, which pretty much we're guaranteeing at least the pre-orders are going to go live for the tickets for The Last Jedi, but there's also hopefully going to be a new trailer, so hopefully that goes down. So don't forget, people, if we do get this out in time on Monday, it's going to be sometime during Monday Night Football, which I believe is on ESPN on Monday night. And you're hopefully going to get a trailer, and then we're hopefully going to get pre-orders for tickets. And there's going to be a great chance that the internet's going to crash. So do your best. Try to get your tickets in. If you can't, don't panic. I remember last time that I was like, damn, my home theater, I couldn't get tickets. And then literally the week it came out, a whole bunch of new screenings popped up, and I was able to get some anyways.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, look, people, when tickets for movies like this come out, the theaters will make room if there's demand. They'll make room. So you'll be able to get your hands on one.
Yeah, but hopefully we'll be talking to you again early next week, so we might have a 2-banger coming up depending on when you listen to this. But anyways, we just recapped some of the top moments from the Star Wars 40 Short Stories book, which is out now. You can search Amazon, search wherever. I think it's a Penguin Random House type of book. You can find it. It's out there. It's on ebook as well, so I'm sure it's on iBooks or iTunes, wherever you get your books. It doesn't matter. It's out there. Just get it. It sounds great. I'm going to get it, and I don't even read. I just know it's packed full of Star Wars narrative nuggets that all kind of help to flesh out the universe that we all love. All right, buddy, so is there anything else you want to kind of close out with? Are we good to shut this thing down?
I think we're good. No Han Solo news. No, nothing on that front. And yeah, I think we're all good.
All right, rock and roll. All right, people, may the Force be with you always.